Hey everyone, it's Wednesday night, and of course, you know what Wednesday nights mean around here. That means blockchain chat. I'm really excited to engage in this discussion. You guys, most of y'all have seen me, Eric Spence. I am President of Blockchain Consortium International, BBC Inner Circle member. The ladies like to call me the Titan of tokenization just because I believe so much in that application of blockchain technology. But I am actually, this is going to be an incredible discussion. I'm so excited here. And we have our own Inner Circle member, Stephen Washington, who was actually from Elastos. So Stephen is going to go and give us a deep dive and let us really bring us up to speed on Elastos and what it's about and all of the developments. And Stephen, kicking it off to you.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thanks, Eric. I really appreciate it. So just a little point of clarification. So I'm not with Elastos. I have worked with Elastos, and it's really my pleasure to actually bring two folks from Tomb Technologies who used to be a part of Elastos and now have separated themselves from Elastos to create this new part of the ecosystem that's going to help grow Elastos into hopefully this modern internet of the future. So thanks again, everyone. And I'm really excited to have, again, as I said, two members from Tomb Technology, Donald and Karen. I'm going to do a more formal introduction of them later. But let me just do a quick overview about myself for those who don't know me. So my name is Steve Washington. I have about 25 years of software development and leadership experience. So I've led distributed teams of engineers and data scientists. The last 15 years have been focused on AI and machine learning. And like many of you within BBC, I'm on this journey to learn more about blockchain applications and blockchain technologies. I started my journey about 2 years ago, went to an organization called Government Blockchain, and I took a course there, and that started my foundation in learning about blockchain. Looked online, found some online resources, found a conference that was taking place in Baltimore. Turns out that that conference was being hosted by Black blockchain consultants. So I attended it. It was a great, great conference. It felt like a family atmosphere. I really enjoyed it. So I joined BBC, had a chance to meet Cherie Warwick, the founder of BBC. Really enjoyed it. So then my learning continued to grow. Did some additional online research, came across some interviews with a gentleman named Rong Chen, uh, and he was a former Microsoft employee. And I was really taken by some of his thoughts on the way that the application that we were building had outgrown the internet and the way it was originally intended. And also was really taken by some of his thoughts on how we can improve upon the current internet. And his, I guess, 20-year passion project became what's known today as Elastos. And we have, again, Donald Bowlers and Karen Pachai, who are going to give us a really deep look into where his project is now, and then hopefully tell us how we might be able to get involved with Elastos. So what I hope that you gain from this next, I guess, 45 minutes or so is three things. One, I want you to have an understanding of what Elastos is. What does it mean when we talk about this modern internet from an Elastos point of view? I want you to understand how it is different from other technologies that you may have leveraged or heard of. So how is it different from Ethereum? How does it compare to other distributed ledger technologies? And then the third thing I want you to be able to start thinking about is why would you choose Elastos over another alternative for a particular project? Or why would you choose the alternative to Elastos? So again, that third one is going to be more context specific. But again, just like a carpenter has many tools in his toolbox, he has a hammer and a saw, and he certainly has to know when to use one or the other. I want you to be able to start thinking about, when Elastos would be appropriate for a particular project that you're working on. All right. So here I'm going to share really quick with you a 3-minute video that I think kind of captures the thinking that again pulled me in to Rong's thinking about the current state of the internet and his thoughts about how we improve upon it. So we'll talk about it on the other side, and I'll do a more thorough introduction for our panelists after this video.
We've always lived in a smart world. Our society, our art, our ecosystem, our universe itself.
Is there supposed to be sound on this video?
Yes, there is.
Okay, I don't
Can
know
you
if
not hear
anyone
it?
can hear it. Put a 1 in the chat, everybody, if you can hear the sound, because I do not. There's usually a place that says share computer sound, and I think you guys may not have known to select that.
Yeah.
All right. How do I get to that?
Steven, if you unshare your screen and then share it again, when you share it the first time, it asks you to share computer sound.
Okay. So let me go back to share. Sorry about that, everyone.
That's okay.
All right. Share. Didn't ask me. Share computer sound. Okay. So let me
Sometimes
restart
it's up
that.
at the top. It'll say like you'll see something that says share computer sound.
I think we're good. You guys tell me.
Yes. Now we can hear it. Yes.
Awesome.
World.
Thank you.
Our societies, our art, our ecosystems, our universe itself, all made of vast, complex networks designed for interconnection, growth, and innovation. Then, this happened. And that really started speeding things up. The Internet, originally conceived of as a decentralized smart network with no central authority, made it possible to communicate directly all over the world. But it wasn't built to evolve as it did. And while our smart world advanced, the Internet stayed in the past. And as it expanded, its vulnerabilities became more serious, more prevalent. Data, the lifeblood of the Internet, became centralized. Stored on servers owned by giant corporations, easily found vulnerable to attack, making our devices easily hacked, no matter how smart they became. We didn't lose the Internet. We lost our Internet. Elastos is the modern Internet. Elastos has rebuilt the infrastructure of the Internet from the ground up, creating the world's first open-source network operating system. This is an operating system for the Internet itself that is completely decentralized and that can be installed directly onto anything and everything smart. Every person, every device, every business, everything can be directly interconnected into one massive global supercomputer, each given their own secure identity that must be verified by the blockchain before accessing the network, enabling an internet of security instead of vulnerability. An internet where central servers no longer exist. An internet where everyone owns and controls their own data, simultaneously creating the world's first platform for the secure internet and data economy, powered by the applications of the future and the people who build them. And because the platform was designed to run literally on any smart device, developers can seamlessly write, install, or integrate existing applications onto Elastos using their own secure sidechain, allowing people and machines alike to have direct exchange of the next global currency. Elastos. Smart web powered by blockchain.
Great. So there's a lot there. I mean, you've probably seen some common things that we've talked about in the past. And Donald, I guess you can start to share your screen. Some of those are, distributed applications, distributed finance, digital ID. So those things are inherent in what Elastos provides us. So here we have, I'm going to now turn it over to our co-presenters here, Donald Bullers and Karen Pachai. So let me just get on here real quickly. Can everyone see their screen?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yes, we can see it. Thanks.
All right. So Donald Bullers has 10 plus years of leadership in the field of technology. He's held positions that include VP of Digital Marketing and is one of the co-founders of Tomb Technologies. His interests include data rights, digital identity, He leads market development for teams developing software for an entirely decentralized internet using Elastos technology. Kiran Pichai has over 7 years of experience working as a software engineer, DevOps engineer, solutions architect, project manager, VP of technology, and more recently, he's also one of the founders of Tomb Technologies. He's worked across numerous sectors, from VMware virtualization to cybersecurity, and more recently in the blockchain space. He's mentored and led many teams to develop consumer-grade products and continues to innovate in areas of decentralized technology. So as we go through this presentation, we hopefully we'll wrap up at about 8:15 or so. If you have questions, do enter them in the chat box, and then Eric has agreed to help me pull those questions out, and then we'll save that last 15 minutes to answer some of those questions. So again, if you have some deeper technical questions, we may save some of those for a later date, but I do want to make sure that you get that fundamental understanding of what Elastos is, what makes up the Elastos ecosystem, and what are the technologies that are contained therein to create this modern internet. Okay, with that, Donald, I'll hand it off to you.
Awesome. Stephen, thanks for the introduction. Eric, Cherie, BBC, we're excited to be here tonight. Both Karen and I are excited to talk about Elastos, so I'll get right into it. So before I dive into the details of Elastos, I just want to make a comment about that video. It always gets me excited. I like watching that video and just thinking back to why Karen and I both got involved and what's gotten us so passionate about what we're building. And what I've written here is similar to the internet itself. Its users are ever changing and always evolving. We're curious. It's in our nature to continue moving forward. It's simply not natural for our data to be siloed at the hands of large corporate control. So I invite you to think about that as we go through discussing the Elastos technology and what we're building here. Really, a lot of it goes back to empowering the users, building technology that we believe takes us back to how the internet should have always been. And unfortunately or not, we've gotten to a place where there's large corporations, large tech companies that have siloed our data, have control over a lot of what we do online, and there's no really ownership of our own data and our own identity online. So we're building some pretty cool stuff to get us back to that point. So what I'll first go over with you guys is getting to know Elastos, the Elastos Foundation, the ecosystem, and then what Karen and I are working on amongst with some others is Tomb Technologies. Elastos is a public blockchain project that integrates blockchain technology with a suite of reimagined platform services to produce a modern internet infrastructure that provides intrinsic protection for privacy and digital asset ownership. So what does that mean? Elastos basically is a massive project. We have a lot going on. It was formed back in 2017. We use the same blockchain as Bitcoin, SHA-256, and that's our main chain. We have a foundation that started this out in Beijing, and we have teams in Shanghai, product teams over there. We have core teams like Tomb Technologies have spun off here in the United States, and we have members in Europe and actually all over the world, and we have community teams that are also developing. We have a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization called Cyber Republic. So that's also running. We have Supernodes, which is a lot of different teams can run nodes in the community, and they do a lot as well. They build different websites and tools, and there's a lot going on. It all stems from the vision that Rong, the founder, created that goes back to what Stephen said, where he's had operating system experience for over 30 years. And he had a vision long ago to bring this type of technology to the world. And it just so happened that blockchain came around and it was a perfect fit. So we have that going on. And we also have overall vision of user empowerment. I think now we notice a lot of things that are going on around the world, and we need to kind of bring that empowerment back to the users, get some of that control back. So a lot of the technology, specifically that Tomb Technologies, Karen and I are working on, is built for the users. So we have that, and also a core vision behind Elastos is creating an internet of wealth. How can we provide individuals the opportunity to have their own data, have their own online profiles, use that data to generate wealth for themselves? You think about these large companies like Facebook and others, where they gain billions and billions of dollars on advertising and using your data to kind of target you and provide resources to these other companies. But at the same time, what are you getting out of it? You get a free social application, but you're losing out a lot of the opportunities that can come with your data and having control of that. And I put here that we do have digestible features with Elastos. I think that it's very difficult for people that first find Elastos to kind of understand the big picture. There's a lot of core components that Karen will get into later, but if I can simplify this at all for you, I think that you need to understand that we're trying to build a digital identity for every user. Here at Tomb Technologies, myself, Karen, Martin, and several others, we're building different applications that provides you an ID online, and then a means to add verifiable credentials to the ID, build up a profile, and then you can use that across the internet, interoperable between platforms. In addition to that, we're working on storage alternatives, where we want to give a decentralized way for you to set up your own storage systems, or at the very least, have the opportunity to choose where your data is stored. That's a little different than what it is today, where you don't have a choice. Your profile is housed at where the application that you're using is built. Your storage is all housed at that company. And it would be really cool if, that you can boot up an application, already have your same profile that you bring with you wherever you go, and then anything that you do, that you have control of that storage. So that's another core piece. We do have side chains. So if you're familiar with Ethereum, we have the capabilities to do smart contracts. So we have teams out in Shanghai and Beijing that are focusing on DeFi at the moment. And so as the time goes on, you'll be able to utilize the Ethereum sidechain that we have, just like you do with Ethereum. And another core piece is our peer-to-peer network. So we have a way to communicate peer-to-peer, and we have an application that's currently released, and we have another version coming out that's a encrypted peer-to-peer messenger. So if you're familiar with Signal or WhatsApp, it's a messenger that like any other, but you have full control, and it's peer-to-peer communication that's encrypted, and that's the kind of technology that Elastos can provide. So Karen will get into the details, but I want you to understand that at the basic level, we're providing you an identity, we're providing you a way to store your data, and then a means to monetize that data in the future through applications. So I'll go on to the Elastos Foundation that I spoke of. This was an original organization that set out to build the modern internet of Elastos. It started in 2017 when the main chain was developed. It's still, the foundation is in Beijing, and we have basically an operations team there where they help facilitate all these decentralized teams to build the core infrastructure of Elastos. But what's interesting about Elastos is they followed Rong's vision and sought out to build this technology completely open source. The plan is, after 4 years, to kind of step away and let the community and let the open source community continue to build on top of the foundation that's been built. So we have roughly another year or so with the Elastos Foundation maintaining somewhat of a control that's already become more decentralized. Just like Karen and I and others we're working directly with the foundation and have spun off this Tomb Technologies, where we can focus on our digital identity and what we have a passion behind and what we want to build. So the foundation's still there. They're still operating out of Beijing, but we're kind of moving into more of a Bitcoin style project where there's going to be no central control of the future of the open source technology. We do have a pretty cool ecosystem. So a lot of times, people say that the product doesn't really matter. It's just the community and it's everyone around it that's involved with the products. And what we have is an ecosystem that's built up with the foundation, which started several years ago, like I said. But we also have community teams. We have the Cyber Republic, which is our DAO. It's a system that's set up where there's a board that helps facilitate different suggestions from the community and bring it into existence. And we have different projects like are shown here in the images. We have the Tomb Technologies logo. There's a elephant team that's created a wallet and a community around it. The Hyper product that I spoke of, that's a decentralized messenger. The P logo over there, there was a group that put together an application for when COVID was released so that you can start tracking your temperatures. And there's a lot of different things in the community that are going to be, that have been built and are going to be built because of the open source technology that Elastos provides. So we're really several years in, but it's really the beginning. So it's a perfect time to get involved, to learn about what we're doing, and to really build out the ecosystem because there's a lot of potential there. And I've spoken about this already. Tomb Technologies, that's what Karen and I are a part of. And we're really, really focusing on empowering people in the digital world. We're honing in on the digital identity piece and the storage piece. And we're building products around this where we want to give the power back to the users. I'll go on to it a little bit later after he speaks to talk more about the projects that we're actually developing. But I want everybody to understand that in order to do a lot of things in the world that people see are necessary online, you have to first give that power back to the individual. So we're working on different things in that capacity, and I'm excited to go into more detail later. But before that, we're going to go over to Kieran, and he'll dive into the technicals of all this.
Thank you, Donnie. So I'm Kieran. I go by KP, and Donnie here has given a brief overview of what Elastos enables developers, users all over the world. We're pretty much focused on developing decentralized technology for the entirety of the internet. So I'm going to go into technical details on how Elastos works, how it's different. So it's not going to be a deep dive, even if some of these slides that I'm going to be sharing do have a lot of details in them. So we'll get started here. So I'm going to talk about give a brief overview of Elastos architecture, how it's built under the hood, and then our main product. It's called Elastos. That's how it's pronounced. That's an actual application you can download on Android and iOS already. And then I'm going to talk about the differences between the traditional application that you build on the internet today. Compare that to the kind of applications you can build on top of Elastos. So, here I think everyone pretty much knows what blockchain is, what Bitcoin is, Ethereum. So if we think about different generations of blockchain, Bitcoin was really the first pioneer that brought about this idea of digital payment, which was peer-to-peer with no central intermediary. And so that's what we would call the first generation. You can still implement some very simple logic, kind of like smart contracts, but you can't really get too sophisticated because it was designed to be a peer-to-peer cash, electronic cash system in the beginning. And that's what it's designed to do. It has a fixed supply, and that's where the value of Bitcoin comes from. Compare that to Ethereum, the second generation of blockchain technology, where it also has all the features, capabilities of Bitcoin, but in addition to that, you have what are called smart contracts. So what it is coming from a software engineering background. If you think about how a program works currently, you write some code on some programming language and you deploy the code somewhere and it just runs. Similar to that, on Ethereum, you write the same kind of logic on its own special programming language called Solidity, and then you deploy it to the blockchain, which is Ethereum. And then what basically happens is you can make it so that it triggers certain actions based on some certain other actions. And all of this is happening autonomously without anyone intervening. And no one has to, once deployed, it will run forever. And that's the idea behind Ethereum. So what this allowed developers to do was to build very sophisticated decentralized applications where you wouldn't even need to have these centralized third-party servers running in the back end. So that's what Ethereum enabled. And as you know, today there's over 1,000 different projects that are very similar to Ethereum, Bitcoin, or are forks of them. Or there are also other projects that are completely trying to revolutionize the third generation of blockchain. And that's where Elastos comes into play. So Elastos, we tend to think of Elastos as not just a blockchain project. We do have a blockchain, so we have our own Elastos blockchain, but our main focus really is on decentralized technology. So what that means is we have 3 components. One of them is blockchain, which I have the picture of here. The second one, and then the blockchain is very similar to Bitcoin and Ethereum. The main difference is that we have a multi-chain architecture. So you have the main chain. You can see here, the main chain is responsible for digital payment, peer-to-peer payment. So similar to what Bitcoin enables. And then we also have these sidechain structures. And similar to how Ethereum enables the execution of smart contracts, we have an Ethereum sidechain that does the exact same thing. So any kind of smart contracts that you write for Ethereum blockchain, you can also execute those same smart contracts inside Elastos in one of these sidechains on our Ethereum sidechain. And then there's also DID sidechain, which stands for Decentralized Identity Sidechain, which issues decentralized identifiers for any device, any people, anyone in the world. And it's issued by a blockchain technology. So in that regard, there's really no company behind these identities. So that's the main ingredient of this modern internet that Elastos is building. Because when you can have an internet built on trust, when we say trust, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have to hand over your real identity or your real address or anything like that. It just means it's a digital identity for the internet. So you can be completely anonymous if you wanted to, or you can also have these verified credentials that Donnie was talking about earlier. You can have your name, real name verified. You can have your birth date verified. So what that enables then other applications to do is they can implement some kind of logic where, okay, if an application requires only U.S. citizens to be able to download and to run that application, you can put a simple logic where you can say something like, okay, I'm going to accept all these decentralized identities that are verified and who live in the United States. Now, as an application developer, you will never know, the person, like the address of where that person lives, or even like where in the United States they live in. You just know that they live in the United States, and you can trust that because it is a verified credential issued by a party that you trust. So those are the kind of applications that DIDs and these blockchains sort of enables. Coming back to our own election, something like voter fraud, a lot that sort of thing is talked about a lot. And while I don't know whether there is a voter fraud, or there may or may not be. If you were to use something like DID, a verified name, a verified voter registration using DID, and build a voting application just for the election, or any kind of voting application, you could completely eliminate voter fraud, and you could get the results in real time, and you wouldn't have to spend days upon days just to count these different votes, because all of the voting, all of those votes are verified with unique private keys that only one person can own at any point in time. So these are the kind of real life applications that are enabled by something like DID. So that's our blockchain piece, right? We have our carrier piece, which is pretty much our peer-to-peer network that takes over all the network traffic. So what we mean by that is carrier is built on top of the current internet infrastructure. By that, we mean that, if you think about something like how Facebook Messenger works or how WhatsApp works, currently, if I wanted to send you a message, then what ends up happening is I send you a message, the message goes to the Facebook servers, and then Facebook servers then route that message over to you. And so it's the same thing whenever you send me a message, or when you want to store a message, right? So there's always this third-party intermediary. While Facebook is very big and they do have all the best security practices in the world, that doesn't necessarily mean that someday some attacker might discover a vulnerability, so they might be able to attack the centralized servers that Facebook controls, or even someone may get blackmailed or something to hand over all the user data. That sort of thing doesn't happen, but if it were to happen, then that means that your data is not under your control as it should be. So what Carrier allows you to do is it completely eliminates that Facebook centralized party. So I could build a Facebook-like messenger app using Elastos Carrier. And what that allows me to do is when I send you a message, instead of going to some centralized servers that are controlled by some companies, it basically uses the nodes on the internet, the carrier nodes, and it routes the message that I send you from my device to some random device on the internet, and then it hops on over to another random device on the internet, and eventually it will find a way to you. So in a way, that is a completely decentralized way of thinking about how your data is traveled. So and the only way to unlock the content of that message is if you are the owner of the data, and if you are the receiver that it's intended for. Last but not least, we have Hive. We have the blockchain for provenance, digital payment, smart contract capability. We have Carrier for data transfer, and then we have Hive, which solves the storage problem, where traditionally, if you go back to the Facebook idea, Facebook app, like it stores all the data, all the personal data on their centralized servers. Whereas with Hive, you as a user get to choose where to store all of your data, which means not just your application data, not just your Facebook data, but also any kind of personal sensitive data that you might have. And you can choose your own Hive vault, we call it. And from that point on, all the applications can utilize your own vault. So even if I have 100 different applications running on my phone, all the data generated from all those applications could live on the Hive vault that I own. And this Hive vault, you can run it simply on a Raspberry Pi and store it in your own house. So you take charge, or you can store it. You can choose your friend's vault, or you can choose some other third party's vault that you trust. In the end, it gives the users the choice to do that. So that's what Elastos is. So this diagram represents the three different kinds of network. When you think about it, blockchain is very good for one specific purpose, but it is not good for storing. So this is why we have the Elastos Hive. And blockchain and Hive network, they're used for storage, and blockchain for digital payment, and so on and so forth. But then when you talk about random distributed denial of service attacks or man-in-the-middle attacks, these networks or the traditional internet really has no way of preventing something simple as that. So that's where carrier comes into play, and that takes over all the network traffic. So then when you combine all three of these networks together, you can build applications on your device integrating with any of these networks for whatever specific reason, purpose that you have in mind, and you can build very sophisticated applications. Any kind of application that is currently available on the centralized world, you can do so on the Elastos world as well. So talk a little bit about architecture of Elastos blockchain. We do have our main chain sidechain structure. I don't want to go into detail too much, but our blockchain is merged mined with Bitcoin, which means that it's not built on top of Bitcoin. It doesn't use Bitcoin in any way, but all the miners that are part of the Bitcoin network, they also help in securing our Elastos blockchain network, which means it is very, very secure. And usually it hovers around it has around 50% of the Bitcoin hash power, which is, I don't think any other blockchain platforms have, including Ethereum. So that's our main chain sidechain structure. And because of our unique, blockchain structure, there is no one consensus mechanism that we have. Rather, it's a hybrid consensus mechanism. So our main chain is merge mined with Bitcoin, whereas our side chains can have their own consensus mechanism. So you have our DID sidechain that is also merge mined with Bitcoin. So it has the enormous hash power. So all your digital identities are very secure. And Ethereum sidechain has delegated proof of stake consensus, which means that all the transaction smart contracts get executed very, very quickly. So you do not have to wait around in your application when you're interacting or building your application. So just talked about the hybrid consensus mechanism here. So Carrier, it is decentralized, completely peer-to-peer communication network. It's very lightweight. One thing that I didn't mention about Carrier is it's so lightweight that you can actually install it on top of any device. And this includes any of the IoT devices, similar to if you have like a smart camera in your house, you could install Carrier on that camera. And what that enables you to do is if you're worried about someone recording your video from your camera or listening in through your microphone through these IoT devices, because you don't know what these modern devices are capable of, using Elastos Carrier, that completely eliminates those sort of problems, because it is completely decentralized. There is no company behind Elastos Carrier. It just runs on its own. As long as there is one node on the network, it just runs, right? And so you can build these applications where only you have access to your IoT device and no one else does. So it just creates that, it enables developers to build smart home network, which is completely secure, privacy focused, and so on and so forth. So, we have various SDKs available that lets you interact with Elastos Carrier, and it's available in C, C++. We have it for Android, Swift. You can build Android and iOS applications. And then we have Cordova plugin. You can build Ionic applications based on that. And this goes for all these kind of different SDKs. It's not just available for Carrier, but for all our blockchain components and the Hive storage network as well. So this is Hive. If you think about it, this is the centralized way of storing. All these devices are storing in the same centralized storage servers like Facebook or AWS or whatever. Whereas with Hive, you get to choose your node, right? You can either run it in your own house, in your backyard, or you can choose someone else's vault who you trust. And from that point on, all your application data and your personal data can be stored there. And at any point in time, if you want others to not have to access your data, you can just turn off their device yourself. So this just gives control back to the users. That's what Elastos Hive provides. And Elastos, this is our application browser that you can download on Android and iOS. And a little bit about how it works underneath. It is a browser similar to Chrome, Safari. So it has all these different plugins, these Cordova plugins built in that lets you interact with Carrier, which we talked about, lets you interact with Hive, Ethereum smart contracts, the wallet for payment, and then the DID for decentralized identities. And so, all of this is packaged for you, and we provide a platform where, you can pretty much develop an application for this Elastos browser using Ionic, and you can use Angular or React. So what it means is we have worked really hard over the last few years to build this platform where you write the application for this browser, but that doesn't mean that it's just for this browser. We have a tool that lets you convert the application that you wrote for this browser, that lets you convert that application over to a native Android, native iOS, and a desktop version, all with the same code. So you write code once, you interacting with all these different plugins, interacting with blockchain carrier, smart contracts, things like that. And then you use our tool to automatically convert that, and you can publish it on a decentralized app store, which this Elastos browser supports. Or you can also publish that exact same application as a native standalone application to Android, like a Google Play Store or iOS App Store. All of that is possible because of our unique architecture that we've made robust over the last year. So I'm gonna I have 3 more slides to go, just some diagrams to compare. If you think about the traditional world versus Elastos app, let's think about how authentication works on the traditional app on the left-hand side here. You have a Facebook login, user 1, user 2. You have to, whenever you try to log in, it goes to the Facebook server that is controlled by the company. This Facebook server lives somewhere on the internet, and Facebook server then authenticates you, and then that lets you log in, right? It's the same for user 2. So all of this is shared by user 1 and user 2. Whereas with Elastos, if you were to utilize these decentralized identities, then this is an application that is available that uses DID. So we have this blockchain network that runs on top on top of the internet. So what happens is when you log in using your DID, instead of contacting this server, it actually contacts just one of the blockchain nodes, and then using the blockchain node, the blockchain itself authenticates you so you can log in. So that's a very simple example. And these nodes that are controlled not by any one company, but it's, as you know, blockchain is very decentralized. So any person could be controlling those nodes. And it really doesn't matter because their job is to verify whether the public key, whether the private key that you are using matches the public key with that is associated with your DID, the decentralized identities. So that's the decentralized way of authentication, right? And then we have the same thing applied to the data storage. Same thing applied to the Messenger app. We talked about this earlier. When I send you a message, it goes to Facebook server, and then the Facebook server sends the message to another user. Whereas with Elastos, you send a message, and then it contacts the carrier network, and then it randomly selects the nearest node close to you, and let's say carrier node 1, it basically routes the message to carrier node, and carrier node 1, maybe it sends it to carrier node 3, and then carrier node 3 knows whom to deliver it to, so then it delivers it to user 2. And these nodes are, again, similar to how blockchain network works. They are controlled by completely random people, and they cannot look at the content of the message because only you have access to the data that you sent, or only the user who you sent the data to has access for the data to be viewable. So this is the decentralized way of thinking about how messenger applications work. Last but not least, how storage system works. Similar here, a little bit different though. Facebook, again, works the same way. Facebook storage stores everything. You grab the data from there. Whereas with Elastos, you have your own vault. You can choose the vault that you want to use to to store all your application data. So maybe user 1 has vault 1, and then user 2 has vault 2, right? And there can be like user 3 uses vault 2, and any number of users can use the same vault, or they can use different vault. It doesn't matter. What happens is because of the unique architecture, whenever user 1 wants to store data, all the data that user 1 stores in all their applications only gets stored in vault 1, and that in itself can be backed up in Google Drive or IPFS or Microsoft OneDrive, and all of these are encrypted backups. So you could back up that data that way. And then user 2 can be connected to some other node. And so that node can have a different kind of backup. So this just creates that whole sort of versatility, which enables these, even if they are the same applications, even if they're not interacting with the same vault, same node, they are still able to interact, because applications can apply some logic where certain data can be made publicly available. So user 2, if it wants to read message that was sent by user 1, as we know, user 1's data is stored here. So then user 2 would be accessing vault number 1 to access the data that was sent to user 2. So all of this kind of logic is possible because of how Hive works. So to summarize everything, we're thinking about not just about blockchain, but about how we can decentralize everything. That's where Elastos really differentiates itself from all these other platforms. So it's not just a blockchain project, but it's an entire ecosystem that has blockchain as one of its components, but it has Carrier, and then it has Hive for storage. And all of this is end-to-end encrypted. So only the users who the data is intended for, only they can view the messages. And all of these applications, I can tomorrow build another application on top of Elastos. And the sort of interoperability it provides is, if you think about it today, if you wanted to send a message with someone on Facebook Messenger, but you don't have Facebook Messenger, you have WhatsApp, you can't do that. You both need Facebook Messenger. With Elastos, what it allows you to do is, because these identities are issued by the blockchain, everyone has access to it, everyone can verify it, and it uses Elastos Carrier that no one controls. So I can build a Facebook Messenger clone, and then person B can build a WhatsApp clone, and then I, from Facebook Messenger clone, can talk to someone on WhatsApp clone. And all of that is possible because of this interoperability that Elastos provides. So at the end of the day, you own your own data, right? It all comes back to this. And it sort of enables all sorts of new business models. And last but not least, it's completely privacy oriented, and it's very privacy focused. So so you are in control of everything that you do on the internet, rather than letting some third parties be in control. And that's what Elastos provides. So I'll let Donnie get back to the rest of the presentation.
Really quick, Donnie, we just have about 12 minutes. So I just wanted to give you a quick heads up.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so Karen went into all the details there, and you can see that there's a lot you can do with Elastos. So what I'm going to try and do is just bring it back to what Tomb Technologies and what we're focusing on currently. And you'll see here it's digital identity, as I spoke about at the beginning. I'll touch on that again. The applications that we're currently building around this digital identity push, the DID, the decentralized identifier that Karen spoke about in detail, and then how you can get involved. So digital identity, we spend much of our lives in this digital world, but we don't really secure our digital identity. I want to get that point across to everybody, because it's really important. These two stats that I put up here, we now live in a world where more than 1 in every 2 individuals is on social media. So this is a recent stat that came out where 51% of the world is on social media. And it's predicted by 2024 that in every year, there'll be 184 billion app downloads. So if you think about that, in 1 year, there's that many downloads of apps. And then let's go back however many years that you've been online using applications. So magnify that to everybody in the world, and you're creating new profiles and new identities on each of these. And these are getting stored at different central servers. And really, you're just getting your identity and your information put all over the internet. And it's kind of worrisome at this point. It seems like there may not on the surface be much of a problem there, but in reality, there's less than 8 billion people in the world. So as this multiplies to more and more people using their identities online, it really makes sense, if you think about it, to have this type of technology we're building, where you have your one identity, you verify the different credentials that you want to have, and then you take that wherever you want to go. You take that as, log in with Google, log in with Facebook. It's going to be log in with DID. And that's how you're going to access these other applications. Your information is going to immediately populate into their application, and then you store your data and you take it with you. So that's going back to what we're focusing on and what we're building. And here's a few of the applications that we're building. So like I said before, it can get confusing with Elastos. So one of the first things that Tomb Technologies did over a year ago when we got together was to build Elastos Academy. It's elastos.academy if you want to have a look. And that's just gives a kind of a good example of the breakdown of what Elastos is in a little bit more of a digestible way. And then after that, we built our first application that's called Academy. It's a companion app inside of the Elastos application. It's a fun little tool. It's kind of like a Duolingo type application where you can do fun quizzes about Elastos and you can chat with different people on the application. But really what it was is it's a tool that we were able to use some of the core technology of Elastos and put it into an actual application. So that was a starting point. And since then, we've built out applications called Vouch, which is a KYC type application where that's where the validation component starts to come in, where people and entities can validate different pieces of information. This is really important because if you look at like a LinkedIn, you create a profile, you join a business, but who's to say that you're part of that business or that any of this is legitimate? So if you can start to have that information validated, we just had a release here a couple of days ago, and we have more coming where now people can start to validate different pieces of information. So if I'm validated by Tomb Technologies, and then I in turn validate Kieran is who he is at Tomb Technologies, then you can start putting in the type of like gaming storing, like a scoring type system of what type of validation is truly a higher score or not. And that's going to be a core component of identity in the future. Another thing is assist. Whenever you start using blockchain, you obviously have to have the Ella token to be able to publish your information to the blockchain. And not everybody is able to create an exchange account or get access immediately. And there really needed to be a way that the user can seamlessly create their ID, publish it to the blockchain without ever really knowing that they needed to have any type of currency to make the transaction happen. So we create Assist, it does it for you. We handle that fee in the back end, you get a limited number, but really it's all playing to that user experience where we want to make the validation easy. We want to make the publication to the blockchain easy. And then here you'll see Elastos is our system that we've talked about where I'll go into next more the DID and where you can actually create your identity and then start to build on to that. And here's a new tool right here that I just spoke of. So just this week, we released getdids.com. So after this call, I invite everybody to check it out. It's a really cool tool on the web. Going back to the user experience, we wanted to make it so that you don't have to go download an application. You don't have to already have any type of wallet set up or anything. You just go to www.getdids.com. You get started. We put in some, our first pretty cool feature is you can link up to your Twitter account. It automatically verifies that that's your Twitter account. You put in your name, your email, whatever you want. You go to the next step. You get your security words, which is called mnemonics. You get these 12 words that it's what holds your identity. And after that, we publish it to the blockchain. And then on the last slide, you can go ahead and download the Elastos application on iOS or Android, plug in your DID that you've newly created, and then all your information's there. And then you can start to build on that by adding in more and more credentials. So definitely check that out after we're done with this presentation. And yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody. How people can get involved, you can follow us on Twitter at Tomb Tech. If you want to find out more about the ecosystem, what's happening, go to Elastos Info on Twitter. Definitely check out getdids.com. You know, I want you to message us on Twitter, send us an email, let us know how your experience is, because we're adding in new things weekly. So we'll have LinkedIn and different ways to log in and immediately validate who you are. And we're really trying to build on this digital identity piece. So what we need is users. We need people to try it out. We need people to get involved, and then really just, build with us or just support the technology that we're building. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Donald. So we've got about 5 minutes left. That was great. And I know I put you guys in an impossible position to try to present so much content in such a short period of time. But that's awesome. So we did have a couple of questions.
We can go a little bit later,
oh, okay.
Stephen. Yeah, I mean, so we definitely understand if people have to go. I had a couple of questions here. There were a couple of questions in the chat. So why don't we do this? I want to start off with asking both Donnie and Karen. We have been talking overall about mass adoption. There's a lot of thought processes with regards to, how close we are to mass adoption. I would love to get your points of view with regards to this and how you see Elastos, intersecting with mass adoption when it comes.
I'll go ahead and take that one. So it's been a long road the past 3 years. We continuously, want to say, we're there, we're almost there. But I truly think that we're getting very close. I think that the core pieces that we need to focus on is that DID piece. So getting out tools like this getdids.com where people can go to the web, easily get their identification started. And now that we finally have the Elastos application approved both on iOS and Android, and we're also working on a desktop version to be released this year in the coming months, I think that that's going to give users the opportunity to finally, to touch the technology and understand that, okay, we can actually start to do something with this. So another piece that we're working on over the next month or two is that Hive storage piece. So we're building out an application now with Tomb Technologies to go into alpha stage at the beginning of next year. And that's where you take your identity and your profile and you start to actually have that component where you can select a vault, store your information. So all of that, I think coming in the early part of 2021 is really going to give us the opportunity to push that mass adoption piece. So I think we're really close, but I do want to say that it's very, very hard in the crypto space to gain that mass adoption. Look at the thousands of projects out there, even go to Ethereum. Do you see mass adoption? Not really. So we're trying to focus on bridging that gap between blockchain and the real world technology. And I think that we can get there both through even a nonprofit charitable type approach because of the good that we're doing and the organizations we're working with. We're in W3C, the DIF, so those type of organizations, but also I think that for like a for-profit type approach, because I think that there's a way out there for people and applications to gain value out of what we're building.
Great. Karen, did you want to add to that?
No, I think Donnie pretty much said everything I wanted to say too, so I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, I love the fact that you, both of you, and this system has like real practical applications, because that's one of the things that we're moving into for 2021. I'm sure Stephen probably told you that. We're looking at, how can we actually create smart contracts? How can we actually create NFTs, for example, even if we do like crazy case studies, whatever, to actually get our hands dirty, I'll say, I have to come up with a better term for it, but to have real life applications that we can use, even if it is just a case study. So I like the fact that your system has such great interoperability as well. It seemed like it was really well thought out. So congratulations for that. Johnny asked a question in here, curious about the performance and speed between traditional apps and Elastos. Did you guys want to answer that?
Yeah, so I'll take that one. So, when you think about the centralized approach versus the decentralized approach, if you go full decentralized, it will almost 99.99% of the time it will be slower. But that's okay because, even if you are sacrificing some speed, you are gaining a lot of security and decentralization as a trade-off. But at the same time, what Elastos does is that with Hive, if you remember the diagram that we had for Hive, it works a little differently. Rather than it being completely decentralized, it's rather it is kind of centralized, but it gives each user a choice. And choice is a powerful thing, because what that allows different application developers to do is, let's say with Elastos, something like Elastos Carrier, you're building a messenger app, and I send you a message. Yeah, if you were to just rely on Carrier, it does have some limitations, like it does not support group offline messaging because of some technical limited capacity. And in that approach, application developers are able to utilize Hive. So what happens is, when I send you a message, it saves it to my Hive node first, and because it's the Hive node that I control, I can be rest assured that, okay, like, it's not really going anywhere. It's still in my control. So then whenever whenever the next person is online in a group setting, it automatically sends that for you. So when it comes to something like that, Hive really bridges that that gap that completely decentralized technology has. And when you think about whether you want to go with your application, whether you want to go full on decentralization, or maybe if you want to go partial decentralization, I think it's always a good idea to look at the trade-off, like, and look at the kind of application that you're building. If security and decentralization is your number one thing, which in a lot of cases usually are, for instance, for verifying something, right? Or for something like voting platforms, things like that, speed really doesn't matter if you're off by a few milliseconds or something. But when you're dealing with real-time capability, something like that, you would utilize Hive. And in the future, Hive will not just be this sort of storage, that provides you with database and sort of storage mechanism, but also in the future, we do have plans to expand it to make it so that you have other capabilities, like something like you can subscribe to different events, so you can utilize your Hive to relay information really quickly, while for something like non-sensitive messages, Carrier could be utilized underneath. So it all depends on the kind of trade-off that you're willing to do. But it gives everyone the choice to shape their application however they want, right? That's what Elastos offers.
I have a question by Dr. Keisha as well, about how does Vouch avoid bad crowdsourcing actors? I think she actually asked that earlier.
Okay, so Vouch, it is an application that lets you get verified credentials. So it's not available currently as a standalone application, but in the future it will be. But just to summarize, Vouch, let's say I want to get my certain information verified that is attached to my decentralized identity. Let's say something simple as an email address, right? So what Vouch allows you to do is, it lets anyone register themselves as sort of, we call it validator, an email validator. So then let's say there are 100 email validators, and Vouch, what it does is, whenever someone else wants to get their email address verified, they actually get to choose which provider to select that wants to verify their email address. And even if the nature of how Vouch works is decentralized, even if the identities are decentralized, when it comes to verification, that part cannot be decentralized, because when you're dealing with actual real data, something like in the future, if you were to have verifiable voter registration, something that involves people's real identities like passport numbers and stuff, you can't really do that in a decentralized manner. You will have to have governmental entities be involved, or some third parties that you trust involved. So in that case, while everyone does have the capability to be a validator of sorts, you can sort of build these trust scores. So the more DIDs that you verify, and the more the more legitimate your entity is. Let's say people are more inclined to choose you, right? Because they can easily check to see, okay, I see 100 validators here that can verify my email address, but I trust this one because it has verified hundreds and thousands of these email validation email addresses, and it's still live today. And if I were to, okay, but that could mean anything, right? So then I can even go one step further by checking, okay, which entity is this that's has all these verifications, and I can check the DID of that validator, right? So I can check the DID of the validator and be like, okay, the name of that validator, is it verified and by whom? So you can just keep on diving into the verification to any level, right? I can try to verify my validator, how trustworthy it is, and then I can see which validator has validated that validator, so we can keep on going and sort of build that trust scores, which will kind of help. And that's pretty much where we'll be taking Vouch and our future platform that we're currently working on.
So you build up a network of trust. So Cherie, I'm not sure how long you want to go, but I mean, I have a couple more questions, but if you tell us.
Yeah, why don't we go another 5 minutes, gentlemen?
Okay, very good. So just on that network of trust, so that's similar to, so right now we have, I guess, online notaries, so which are given permissions through governments to now state governments, state and local governments, to be able to provide notary services online. So I guess what you're suggesting is something similar to that, where the government trusts these notaries, they've gone through those courses, and now I, as a citizen or a mortgage company, whoever, now trust that notary to validate this person's identity. Is that what you're suggesting?
That's exactly what I'm suggesting. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, can I add to that?
Yes.
Yeah, so going back to something that we're developing now, I think that an easy example is university diploma. So say that you have a profile application similar to LinkedIn, you went to Harvard University, you have a dozen, 2 dozen colleagues that also went to Harvard University have already validated themselves through an email address linked to the university. And you can work in some type of a network of trust where, okay, I have 24 people from Harvard that validate that I went to this university. That's great. You'd have a high score. People can look and see who validated you. But then you have the universities, because you can attach a DID to any person, anything, that also have their own DID. And if they come in and validate you, they obviously supersede everything else, and then that's going to be the all-star credentials. So there's different ways to build into this. I think that a cool thing about what we're doing is we're trying to bridge decentralized and centralized, because you're not going to have decentralization of everything. If you have legitimate KYC companies out there that can provide validation, then obviously that's going to be a great asset to what you're building. But you can also have cool mechanisms like where you have strength in numbers kind of thing.
Gotcha. Dr. Keisha, Cherie, Eric, any additional questions? I have a couple more, but I want to let someone else.
You know what? I don't really have a question. It's just more of a comment. And that comment is this battle, between the balance of power of the internet itself. To me, this is going to be one of the defining battles of the 2020s of the decade. That's going to determine, to me, how this comes out between the centralized players who control so much power versus, as you said earlier, power must be given back to the individual. This is going to determine so much in the future how this all shakes out. But
absolutely,
it looks like you guys really do have it in your sights. So yeah.
Well, can I add a comment to that?
Sure.
So that's a very good point. And actually today we announced that we're part of the World Economic Forum. So I'll be actively participating in that. And the approach there is multiple projects focused on data policy. So we'll be working with corporations and governments to talk about just that. So we have Tomb Technologies building the technology, but one of the groups we're in is about data for common purpose, because it's not going to come easy. You have these large technology companies where they make billions of dollars off of controlling your identity. Mm-hmm. So they have your data. Why would they give it up to you? So you need the users, you need that grassroots understanding of, which is going to be hard because a lot of this is education, but that you can actually create an empowerment around your data, and there's opportunity there. So it's going to be a battle, but I think that we're putting ourselves out in the forefront where we can have a seat at the table with some of these large companies and actually, you know, if we have a user base, we can make a difference.
Agreed. Great.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, I guess also just one final comment from me. You know, you talk about, you know, giving power back to the people, and I think it's also going to come down to the applications. So if we don't create the applications that people want to use, I mean, that are competing with the, you know, the Facebook and the Googles of the world, then, you know, they just won't use it. I mean, because they're actually providing a great service, right? So they've come accustomed to using the Facebooks and the Twitters. So we've got to be able to provide these alternatives and be able to show them that there's benefit for them. Otherwise, I think we may lose that battle that you and Eric just talked about.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I think we've been studying for the past couple of years. We've been studying the Rogers curve of adoption for technology, and I mean, this is just like people started, you know, with the internet. There's a guy that I follow on YouTube, and he posted something from the early 90s that said the internet is only good for gambling and porn. You know, and the whole point was, now he focuses on teaching people about Bitcoin and things like that. But, you know, his whole point was every new technology has that kind of ebb and flow. And I think that this one does as well. I think what you guys are doing is really great. And Dr. Keisha and Eric and I were talking privately in the chat, and we want to talk to you guys about, you know, some other things and other collaborations that we can do with you. So I'm looking forward to it, gentlemen.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Provide that user base for you.
Yes, yes. Hey, everyone is welcome.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we want to thank you so much, Stephen, first of all, for the introduction, and Donnie and Karen for being here. Please don't be strangers. We may make this an annual thing or something like that, where
that's great.
Yeah, you guys can come back and tell us, and our community is going to grow, and, you know, we can help yours grow as well. So we'd love that.
Yes, absolutely. Please stay in touch.
Will do. Thank you, everybody, and have a great week. And I think blockchain chat next week is canceled because that is the day before Thanksgiving.
Oh, didn't we have somebody, Eric?
Do we have? Oh, I'm sorry. We do. We have. Oh gosh, how could I forget?
Yeah.
Oh yes, Eric. Tell everybody. Oh, we have a great guest next week. Y'all want to be here?
You're gonna bring him out. Bring him out.
Isaiah Jackson from Bitcoin and Black America. They will be coming on to talk to us, and what better time to talk about Bitcoin than, you know, when you look at the current prices and how it's doing. So I'm really excited to hear.
I am too.
There's a second edition coming out. It will be launched this weekend. So looking forward to it.
Yeah. I'll stop cooking to be here.
or no, you just make sure your onions are chopped early in advance. Yes.
Like a plan. All right.
And then everybody, just make sure you have on your calendar for all members that the next mastermind is on December 28th at 7:30 p.m. December 28th, 7:30 p.m. So bring your business ideas. I expect to see six-figure businesses in 2021 from everybody. That's the time to talk about it. Okay.
All right, guys.
All right, everybody. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great holiday, everybody.
Guys.
Take care. Be safe out there.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.